President Cyril Ramaphosa is hosting Portuguese President Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa at the Union Buildings today. South Africa and Portugal, of course, have well-established trade relations. They maintain friendly political relations as well. There are approximately 500,000 South Africans of Portuguese descent living in our country. SABC News reporter Khayelihle Khumalo and video journalist Hermit Mamele are covering the story. Let's cross to them live now. Khayelihle, good morning to you once again. Are we seeing proceedings really starting to kick off there as yet?
To you, okay. Naledi, at this point in time, we have seen the arrival of Minister Naledi Pandor, who is here. We have seen the arrival of Minister Khumbudzo Ntshavheni. In fact, my colleague Khayelihle Khumalo has just spoken to Minister Naledi Pandor about 2 minutes ago, which is being fed to the office. I'm just going to ask my colleague Khayelihle Khumalo just to quickly wrap up for us the discussions that he had with Minister Naledi Pandor. Kaya, just the essence of what Minister Pandor had to say in that particular discussion you had with her, particularly on the meeting with the other African heads of state who are part of the mission of finding a peaceful resolution to the Russia-Ukraine conflict.
Well, very much so, Khayelihle, a very important day for South Africa and Portugal. But apart from that, Minister Pandor, as Pretoria's top diplomat, really talking about the importance of this peace mission by the African heads of states. You know that the implications of the Russia-Ukraine conflict are far-reaching the continent, really, when it comes to food and security. That's one of the main issues. But apart from that, you know that South Africa's position has been criticized in certain quarters, especially by the partners of South Africa in the West, who are expecting South Africa to take a certain position as opposed to a non-aligned position that South Africa has defended. But also, Khayelihle, the minister really just talking about the modalities in terms of making sure that this particular mission by the African heads of state is quite well arranged in terms of the security, because in mid-June, we understand that when the heads of states, led of course by South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa, but also you do have the Egyptian president as well, Al-Sisi, and also you do have the Senegalese president, Macky Sall, as well as Uganda's Yoweri Museveni, and many others as well. So we're still waiting to hear more in terms of the details, in terms of the dates, and also just in terms of the logistics around this particular mission.
Kaya, when you look at the statement of the presidency issued out by the president's spokesperson, Mr. Vincent Magwenya, quote, "The heads of state deliberated on the devastating impact the war has had on the people of Russia and Ukraine, as well as the threats this war poses to Europe and indeed the rest of the world." It continues. "The leaders agreed that they would engage with both President Putin and President Zelensky on the elements for a ceasefire and a lasting peace solution in the region." When you look at the impact that this is having on food security, particularly on maize, knowing that Russia is one of the biggest exporters of maize worldwide, and South Africa, and the adverse effects it's having on South Africa's economy as well. You saw the rand trading at about 19 rands 64 cents to the dollar last week. It's ravaging the South African economy.
Well, very much so, Khayelihle, because you have all these uncertainties. I mean, really, you know, this particular conflict as well has shaken the foundations of the global peace architecture. But also, apart from that, we've seen the geopolitics shifting in so many ways. And like you just alluded, when it comes to the local currency, how the rand has taken a knock, especially in light of those words that were uttered by the U.S. Ambassador Brigady, where he really made those accusations that South Africa might have given arms to Russia. And of course, there's still an inquiry to look into that particular issue, because South Africa is very strong in its position in saying that they did not sell any weapons. And but apart from that, maybe just to reflect on my interaction with Minister Pandor, Khayelihle, it was very interesting to hear from her talking about the significance of today. This particular state visit was supposed to happen in 2020, but in light of COVID-19, they had to put everything on hold. So other than just, the serious issues, the Portuguese president as well is going to engage with so many people from Portugal who are, based in South Africa now, especially on the Day of Portugal, where they always engage with the community in the diaspora, but also looking at the contribution that has been played by the Portuguese community in terms of South Africa's economy, but something that will be very common for South Africa will have to be the rolling blackouts. The minister spoke about the renewable, that it's going to be one of the main issues that the two leaders will be looking at.
Kaya, when you look at the issue of the trade relations between Portugal and South Africa, trade relations largely skewed in Portugal's favor in the last financial year. In 2021 alone, South Africa exported about 2.8 billion rands of goods, 50% of those coming from the agricultural space, which then brings in Minister Togo Didiza in the agricultural space. Their trade relations around the oceans economy, which will be one of the central discussions between the two presidents when they have their one-on-one bilateral. When you look at the trade relations between these two countries and the rolling blackouts that South Africa is seeing, and how President Ramaphosa's administration has been going to kingdoms such as Saudi Arabia, looking for those investments in the renewable energy space.
Well, obviously, these are very tough times for South Africa and so many parts of the world. You look at the inflation, you look at so many challenges in so many sectors. So this state visit will have to provide these two leaders an opportunity to recalibrate, to look at some new sectors, ocean economy, to try and also affirm their relations, especially because we do know of a very fundamental role that Portugal has played in terms of really just developing itself as a very strong economy. But something also that was quite interesting during the course of, just the past week or two, we had when, of course, the President de Sousa talk about the issue of slavery, saying that it's high time that Portugal is one of the players back in those centuries where they need to apologize about all those events.
Well, Khayelihle, we will certainly be engaging with you, a colleague of mine who is covering international matters extensively for the South African Broadcasting Corporation. As you can see in the visuals, we are now showing you the ministers coming out to make that particular line and showing that the arrival of the two presidents is imminent. I am seeing the minister in the presidency, Khumbudzo Nchaveni. I am seeing the Minister of Trade Relations in the country, Ibrahim Patel, the Minister of Public Service and Administration. That would be Minister Noxolo Kivit as well, who is part of President Cyril Ramaphosa's delegation, and the Minister of International Relations and Cooperation. That would be Minister Pandor. I am going to ask my colleague Khayelihle Khumalo just to try and grab the Minister of Electricity, Dr. Khosianso Ramohukpa, who forms central into the issue of independent power producers, who will certainly be also engaging with other ministers in this state visit of the President of Portugal and President Cyril Ramaphosa.